All right, guys, so today I'm driving a 2022 Nissan Titan XD, and this is the S trim level. And I want to show you the S trim level because there are not very many videos on this particular trim. Seems like all the videos you find are the SV or the Pro 4X. So I'm going to show you this S trim, and we're going to get in a little bit more detail here. But just right off the bat, I'll tell you the steering on this truck feels way better than the Frontier. It's not as heavy. Even though this is a huge truck, the steering feels a lot better. Driving the truck feels pretty good. The brakes are strong. You know, this Endurance V8 has a lot of power. It feels really good, actually. Nice, big, roomy, spacious truck. But just like Nissans typically are, the way this thing is packaged is really odd. Like, for example, this truck has blind spot monitoring, but it doesn't have power mirrors. So you actually have to roll the window down, just like you did back in the 1990s, and use your hand to adjust the mirror glass, which is really weird. Why would you go to the point of putting blind spot monitoring and safety features on a truck and not give them, give the driver power adjustable mirrors? Just really odd packaging the way they do certain things. I also find it pretty odd that the S trim and the SV trim are basically identical inside. I mean, you've got manual air conditioning here, the 8-inch touchscreen just like in the Frontier. The gauge cluster is exactly the same. The steering wheel is the same. You got push button start. I mean, if you look at an SV trim, they have an SV right there on the lot at this particular dealership. They're identical inside, but the price difference is like $5,000. So it's kind of strange to me. I don't know why you would buy an SV for $5 grand more money when you get almost all the same content in this S model. You can see the cup holders here. You've got a flip out cup holder down here. Well, it's kind of stiff because it's brand new. Like I said, you got your electronic 4-wheel drive shifter, manual air conditioning, parking sensors. There's your traction control button. You do have an 8-inch touchscreen. It's got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay compatibility. And of course you do have, like I said, the nice cluster, just like in my Frontier and just like in the SV versions of the Titan. Over here you got automatic headlights. You don't have any way to adjust the mirrors, but you got automatic headlights. So again, the packaging is kind of strange. I don't know what else to say about it, but this is basically what the S trim looks like. You still get the nice cloth seats. Again, all of this stuff is almost identical to the SV trim. It's a pretty good value, actually. This truck has a sticker of 48, and they've got it listed for 46 on the website. Crew cab, 4x4, that's a pretty good value these days. So on the S trim, you do get power windows. You do get power door locks as well, but you can see here on the intelligent key that you don't have well, it's not gonna focus. Come on, camera. You don't have remote start is what I was trying to say. The seat is super comfortable, very, very comfortable seat. This one has a vinyl floor in it, as you can see, so it's really easy to clean out. I don't mind this at all, and it does, they did order the optional floor liners that you can get to go in here also, so this will last a long, long time. While we're over here, let's look at the payload on this truck. 2,370 pounds, so 2,370 pounds is a lot of payload. That's actually more payload than your average Ram 2500 with a diesel. Quite a bit more, actually. You got a rear sliding window back here. You do have cup holders, a nice big bench seat that has the really nice comfortable cloth. You can raise it up, and you've got a big load floor, obviously. This side will go up also, and then you have this big cavernous space if you want. You got a lever here to operate that. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. But anyway, that's how you put the seats back down. Back here you got cup holders. Obviously you got power windows. You don't have any kind of power outlets or USB or anything like that, back here in the second row, at least not on the S trim. But you do have a couple of USB ports up here in the front. You got a USB-C up there and a regular USB-A. You also have that 12-volt power point there if you need to use that. So out here on the outside, this one has the spray-in bed liner in it. Got LED cargo lights up there. This one doesn't have the power outlet back here or the fifth wheel prep package. Those are things that are optional on other trim levels. You can see that it has a black painted bumper on the S trim. These wheels are 17-inch wheels, which is very interesting in the full-size truck segment these days. Not very many trucks come with 17s anymore. Interestingly, this is the same wheel you're going to get on the SV model. So again, there's just not a whole lot of difference between an S and an SV unless you really start to add some packages, like optional packages. So you don't have any fog lights, get a black grille, black insert there in the bumper on the S model. You do get the V8 Endurance badge, which is cool. Like I said, the sticker on this one was 48,510, and there you can see that it doesn't have any options except for splash guards for $245 and the floor mats for $190. Other than that, this is a bone stock S model crew cab 4x4, which is why I wanted to do a video on this truck, because you don't ever see these trucks on YouTube for some reason. I mean, this is your work truck that people are really going to be after if they're just looking for a simple, inexpensive work truck. This is what they're going to be after, but you don't ever get to really see them. So there you go. This is a 2022 Titan XD 4x4 crew cab S. So I'm going to head down the road here and do a little bit of a loop, because I'm curious to see what the fuel economy is going to be. I've only gone 3 miles so far and it's showing 10 miles per gallon. Of course, I'm in the city and I've been idling and it's super hot, 93 degrees, air conditioning's running. So this is kind of worst case scenario and it's showing 10, but let me go down the road for a little while and see if that gets any better. But yeah, there we are, S model. I'm just really perplexed about this lack of power mirrors. In fact, that reminds me, I need to get out and go over there, I guess, because I need to adjust that one. So while I'm in this truck, I want to say something about this truck. I think this is the most underappreciated and misunderstood full-size truck on the market. From what I've been told, the engineers designed this truck to be a 3/4 ton truck, and you can see by the Payload sticker that it is every bit a 3/4 ton truck. I mean, this is almost 2,400 pounds of payload. That's a lot of payload. You know, so I mean, this thing is built heavy duty and rugged, and from what I understand, this thing can handle numbers that are much higher than what you see listed. The towing capacity and all of that, this thing will actually handle, and was engineered to handle, much more. But from what I understand, the legal team got involved, and you know how that goes, and they decided that for liability reasons, they didn't want to put those huge numbers on their truck. So they kind of forced the marketing team and the engineering team to list numbers, payload and towing capacity and all of that, that are actually very conservative numbers. So this, for all intents and purposes, is a 3/4 ton truck, but on the internet you always hear it referred to as a 1/2 ton truck, which in my opinion it is not. So anyway, I think it's a very misunderstood truck. You know, I would put this truck up against the Ram 2500, the Chevy 2500 HD any day of the week when it comes to hauling and towing and how hard this thing can work. So like I was saying, there are a few minor differences between this and the SV. We can look at the SV window sticker when we get back to the dealership, but one thing this doesn't have is intelligent cruise control. It does have cruise control, it just doesn't have the sonar based intelligent cruise control like my Frontier has. So FYI on that, but it does have blind spot monitoring, and I think it also has lane keeping assistance and some of those safety features. So again, it's just kind of strange how they package this truck. It's got a lot of bells and whistles, but at the same time, there are things that are sorely lacking that you find on every other truck made these days. Yeah, I just did a U-turn back there, and the turning radius on this truck is amazing compared to the Frontier. I bet this truck, as big as it is, I bet it would turn sharper. It would turn a sharper circle than the Frontier would, which is really sad. Now, granted, it's 94 degrees out here today, but I've noticed that I have to turn the air conditioning way up high in this truck to make it comfortable in here. The Frontier gets pretty icy cold, but this Titan seems to take a lot of air conditioning capacity just to cool down enough where it's comfortable. And I guess that's just a product of it being a larger cab. But boy, that was bright, sorry about that. But they could have sized the air conditioning system to handle it though. I don't know, I'd have to spend some more time with it to know for sure, but I'm kind of leery of this thing as far as air conditioning capacity goes. But anyway, I'm gonna head back to the dealership now. I don't want to put a whole bunch of miles on this truck. I was just wanting to go down the road here and see, you know, out on a 4-lane highway, what kind of fuel economy would this thing actually get, you know, like in the real world. Because obviously these heavy duty trucks are not rated by the EPA, so you can't look at the window sticker and get any idea of what kind of fuel economy it's really gonna get. So far, it says that I've driven 12.7 miles and it's showing 13.6 miles per gallon. So again, it's a really hot day. I have been in a little bit of stop and go traffic. We sat at one of these red lights down here for probably 2 or 3 minutes. It was ridiculous. So it's, you know, we're getting a mix of city and highway in here. We've got the air conditioning blowing, so this is probably pretty representative of what you would see with this truck on a day-to-day basis. Even though I haven't gone a lot of distance so far, you know, we've got some highway in here on this trip. We've got some city driving on this trip, so I feel like it's pretty representative. And now we're up to 13.8 miles per gallon now, so I'm getting the feeling that if I drove this truck on down this highway for a while, it would probably settle in somewhere around 15 or so. It's up to 14.1 now. So, I mean, it's coming up slowly as we put more highway miles on it. But yeah, I mean, you're probably gonna be looking at low teens somewhere, you know, if you're doing like a combined cycle like I normally do throughout the week, you're probably looking at low teens, 13, 14, something like that. And like I said, I get the feeling this thing would probably settle in the 15s out on just a pure highway trip. So it's, I guess it's pretty much par for the course for a heavy duty gas powered truck. Of course, the diesel trucks these days are getting like 16, so, and they're running on really expensive diesel fuel. So, you know, when you start doing the math on it, you're not gonna save any money by going with a diesel heavy duty truck in terms of fuel economy. You know, so 14 miles per gallon, you know, that might seem pretty miserable, but when you consider that you can run this truck on 87 octane if you want to, and you do some of the math on it, you realize it's really not that bad. Now this truck is rated 400 horsepower on premium fuel, which is super expensive, but you can run 87 octane in it, and then it just cuts back power. I think it's rated about 390. So you lose about 10 horsepower if you put, you know, your basic 87 octane in it. I personally would not try to run 85 octane in this. I would run at least 87 in it if it were me. I haven't looked in the owner's manual. It may say that in the manual. I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet. But that's just my opinion. You know, these engines that are high horsepower V8s, they seem to like the higher octane fuel. So however much you're willing to spend on fuel, that's what I would do on this truck if it were mine. So, oh look, we're up to 14 and a half while I'm sitting here jabbering. Got 15 miles on this trip. So when we get back down here to the dealership, which is pretty close by, we'll see where we end up. All right, pulling back into the dealership here. I'm gonna put the truck right over here where I found it, and we'll take a look at this fuel economy out here in the real world, as they say. So We went about almost 18 miles. Of course, it's a really short trip down the road and back, showing 15 miles per gallon. So that's not too bad. You know, like I said, idling a little bit at some stoplights here in town, and then we did do some 2-lane and some 4-lane highway also. I try to get a mixed bag of driving in when I do these fuel economy loops. Even though they're short trips, I try to get a mix to kind of represent what we're going to be doing with these trucks. So I feel like 15 miles per gallon is really great. And from what I've seen on these Titans, the MPG display is usually pretty accurate on these trucks. On the Frontiers, it's way optimistic, but it seems like on the Titan XD, it's pretty accurate. So there you go, 15 MPG is about what you would expect out on the road, running around with this truck. But yeah, I mean, it looks really nice in here. It's super comfortable. The visibility is great. I love the way it drives. This truck feels big, but it feels good to drive at the same time. And I get the feeling that I could do anything I wanted to do with a truck like this. So good job, Nissan. I like the Titan XD. I think it's a pretty awesome option that gets very often overlooked. Yeah, so that Titan XD is a really nice truck, and I really do think that it is a highly overlooked truck. I mean, guys who are wanting to get into a 3/4 ton, you should really at least give that Titan XD a look. Now, the more I think about it, I believe that I would go with the SV package, because the S package is almost identical on the interior between the two trucks that I saw on the lot, but there were a couple of little things like the power adjustable mirrors, for example. On the S, you can't adjust those mirrors without getting out of the truck and going around it. That's just annoying. So, you know, the SV gives you those power adjustable mirrors. It also had the optional trailer brake controller inside of it, which is really cool. There were a couple of little things that the SV has that are just kind of gotta have it items, you know, in my opinion. So if you can afford it, I would go on up to the SV, I think. But the S package is great. It really is. If the mirror thing doesn't bother you, it's a really good value, that Titan XD S. So anyway, like I said, I wanted to show you guys this truck because nobody else seems to. So it's a good option for the guys who are looking to save a little money on a new heavy-duty truck. So anyway, I'll be back later. I got something cool I want to share with you guys. So thanks for watching.